Think about this for a minute, right? So we are born into this world where we sleep a third of our life. We probably spend a large portion of our life in the bathroom for personal hygiene. We work another third of our life. And then more recently, we spend, anywhere between 1 to 8 hours a day on social media. And those social media is something that helps, and is very valuable for businesses, for entertainment, for connection. Spending time on social media, or rather overspending time, can be harmful because in a sense we become dependent on it and we spend countless times on it. So when we're looking back as we age, do we want to remember a life where essentially we were scrolling and scrolling for hours on end? So one thing that I've kind of consciously done this year is be really cautious of the time I spend on social media, because obviously there's a life to live, there's activities to do. And when I started growing my audience specifically on LinkedIn, I would spend a ridiculous amount of time to only get a bunch of followers, engagement and all of that, which is important. But more so, the moment that I pivoted into more of a sales approach and I used social media as a tool, I stopped caring about the growth as much and focused on clients, on systems, on ways to essentially be able to serve and get results. And that gave me a big peace of mind. So in the process of doing that, I kind of made a small math equation in my head where I was like, how much am I willing to spend on my favorite social media platform, whether that's 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 a month. I'm sure most of you might have a threshold there. That then gives you the value per month. So for example, if I'm willing to spend $10 a month and I spend, X amount per week, what does that add up to in terms of value? So then I said, okay, that time is a lot more valuable to me to spend on clients, on family, on hobbies, on interests, but equally grow the business. And what I did was I started creating power assets. So power assets are evergreen assets by doing something once and then making it evergreen so it starts to give you leverage. That's a principle that Naval Ravikant does. If you haven't read his almanac, I highly suggest it. Where essentially, I would make a training for somebody like a client or a student, and then it would just collect dust. Or I would host a workshop for a bunch of customers, and then again, it would collect dust. So what I did was I would pair those assets, like the audience would give you signals, right? So this one I like more, this one I like less, and that, the signal is sales and interest. So I would package those and build like a little funnel where now that workshop that was previously collecting dust becomes a lead magnet with a customer offer on it. And all of a sudden, it's an evergreen asset. So where I used to have to take 8 hours of sales calls per day to close a client or spend 4 to 6 hours on social media, I then created this power asset into something I call a daily client engine, for example. And then that had a customer offer up front. So then somebody opts into my email list, watches a video, and then is prompted to buy something. Now, when they buy that thing, that's something I made a year ago. I'm now making, let's say, $100 on the front end without essentially having to jump on calls, send DMs, do all of that. All I'm doing is focusing my energy into the content piece, which I enjoy the most on social media for a limited amount of time, and drive people to that power asset in order to go from a lead to a customer. And then I set up automation to turn them from a customer to a client. And that flow essentially has enabled me to dive into hobbies and interests and suddenly have a lot more time, because 8 hours of sales calls, 4 hours of social media combined, in a day now is turning into a little bit of gardening. Like we planted a pomelo tree and a lemon tree and an olive tree actually. It turned into running 3 or 4 times a week, which is something I really enjoy because I believe movement is fundamental, at least in my world. And, playing more music and spending more time with family. So think about the amount of time you spend on social media, put a price tag on it, and then strategically think about how you can build power assets, build some sort of leverage for it to reap the rewards. I hope that's useful.